And that's the thing, is like, even when you have to die to yourself, even when you have to struggle to find that peace, even when you have to be persistent in your prayers, even when all these things, like, that is the truth. That is God, and that is the gospel, is like that God saves us and that we are supposed to be more like him, versus like, oh, God's going to comfort you. You're struggling, you're going through a financially hard time. God's got you. Tithe all your money to us right now. Or, it's just this like, yeah, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Is like, sometimes we just play into the emotion, just into the gimmick, just into the hooks, just into what is attractive and inviting, but then we just end there. And so people feel good. People feel good after their Sunday services and all that stuff, but it doesn't last like preaching the truth lasts.
Yeah.
And sometimes the truth is offensive. But what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, along those lines, another thing I thought about is that, okay, one of my favorite songs is called Deep Fake by the artist Breakins. And
I've never heard of either of those.
It has a really good beat, really good music. It's kind of like, it has a really good bass as well. But as I was listening to the music, like to the lyrics, it's talking about, I want to die, I want to jump off this thing, I want to snap my neck or something. And that was my reaction to myself. It's like, what am I listening to? Like in some type of way, like deep, like somewhere in my heart, it relates to that. But it's like, if I'm listening to this over and over again, is it just keeping me in the same place that I want to get out of? Because words do have power. I'm not saying things like law of attraction or manifestation or name it and claim it. But I think there's a thing where if you keep on repeating it to yourself and you're hearing the words that you're saying over and over again, like, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I want to do all these things, or even stuff with like rap, I want to have sex, I want to do drugs, I want to do all these things that are of the world, then where am I pointing my heart towards? Am I pointing my heart towards God, or am I pointing my heart towards the things of this world? But I think a positive thing that's in the culture is like Christians turning celebrities turning into Christianity. And I do have a opposing thought, but I do like to see when the Christianity starts to influence their music, and you can see the way that God is interacting in their life. One good example in the first half is Kanye.
In the first half,
like, he really releases all this music. He did that one song with, it's not 6ix9ine, the other guy.
Oh, Cardi? Playboy Cardi?
No, he did Gucci Gang.
Gucci Gang? The Migos?
Gucci Gang. I forget what his name
Lil Pump.
Yeah, when Kanye did a song with Lil Pump, and he was talking about sex, he was talking about all these types of things, and then a couple months or years later, he drops Jesus is King, and then like starts doing a whole bunch of like Sunday services and talking about God. And I like to see that. I like to see progression in someone's life. That's why I like to watch George Janko, because he might not be the perfect Christian. He might do things like he swears or he smokes or, that's a debatable thing. But he's not the perfect Christian, and he lives with his girlfriend and stuff. But throughout his process, you can see God working in his life, and you can see the sanctification process. And if you don't know what sanctification is, basically like God restoring you back to what he wants you to be, or to like a holier person, which doesn't truly come until you get to heaven. But I like seeing that in the culture, because you're not just flipping on your audience 180, but you're taking them through your process of thinking, and like you're kind of, if people are following you and you are turning to God, those people will turn to God with you in a type of way.
They're being influenced by you.
Yeah.
Because you have influence. Yeah, and that always led me, especially Kanye would lead me to, I was asking the question the whole time. I was like, okay, how do we know this is real? How all this stuff? Because now Kanye's a little off the rails, you know what I mean?
That's okay.
It's like he's gone back. And so a lot of people will ask the question, like, did he ever actually mean it? Was everything he did fake?
Was it just for clout?
Was it all a lie? Like, all these things. And the question I always ask, especially when I see this and when I see big churches, I keep bringing it back to big churches, and that's actually kind of a good thing, but, I mean, not a good thing, but, like, is the question of how God uses imperfect people. And, like, if somebody preaches God, but then messes up and their life is just a bad example, but when they did this one thing, can God still use that? Like, can God still use it as ministry? Even if you messed up in all these things, like, was it real? Was it genuine? And I was thinking of, like, yeah, so Kanye, like, oh, he said all this stuff, like, does that mean, like, God's saving grace, sanctification, like, does it not actually work? Like, all those doubts and things that you might fear. And I don't know the answer to that, but I do think of the parable where Jesus talks about the guy who's sowing all these seeds, throwing them out, and some landed on the rocks, and so they never sprout up, and some land in the good soil, and they bloom and they're perfect. But the one that I think about is the ones that landed on the shallow soil, and so they bloomed up so quick, but because they weren't rooted deep, they died out. And, like, if you don't realize the parable, it's like the gospel is these seeds, and basically the soil is like us almost, and it's our surroundings, even our culture. Like, where are you planted? Basically, is like one of those cheesy questions that people ask. Where are you planted? Are you what community are you surrounding yourself in? Are you in good soil? Are you around good soil? And I think of it like Kanye, because the way it is now, the way it looks right now, is it looks like he was just planted in shallow soil, where he sprouted up real quick. But then when the winds and the weight of the world comes back down, because the roots weren't deep, the leaves fell off and everything died. Not to say that, who knows, Kanye can come back.